Today we're going to talk about AC, artificial Christianity. One of the raging concerns and raging issues these days is artificial intelligence. How many of you ever heard of that? Oh, good. How many think you have it? No, just. And it is a big thing. People are all up in arms about it, and there are a lot of people that think they have it. There are people that think they got implants in their brains, and I'm still just looking and hoping for a little bit of natural intelligence myself. It's the theory and development of computer systems able to perform tasks that normally require human intelligence, such as visual perception, speech recognition, decision making, and translation between languages. Pretty involved. As I started doing some research on this, I found out it really goes back a lot of years, but it was in its infancy. I mean, it's just really not anything to get too concerned about, but people did. Artificial intelligence is the science of making machines that can think like humans. Some welcome it. Some people are afraid of it. It's just moving so rapidly these days. And, one of the big questions is, when are we going to start to have cyborgs? I remember years ago, I'm kind of a science fiction movie liker. I won't say lover, but they started out with cyborgs, half human and half machine. And now we're kind of getting into it. Artificial intelligence, or AI, is important. It helps machines think and work like humans. It automates a lot of tasks. And as you can see in this picture here, they put together some things that are so nice for people that have handicaps. There are people that could never walk that can, and it looks kind of clumsy to us, but if you can't walk at all and you can go like this with a machine, that's pretty nice. And where's it going to be in 10 years? Cochlear implants. If you notice, this little girl has a cochlear implant on the side of her head, and the way that works, they actually operate and put, I'm so technical here, I'm going to say the word gizmo. They put a gizmo inside of your head and connect it up so that when she puts all this on the outside, and that's actually held on there magnetically. And so we know people that have them. They can just pull that off magnetically if you got to take a shower, go swimming or whatever, and when you want to hear again, you put that on. And one of my friends that has one, he was telling me about it one day, and in pretty good detail, and you don't realize how your hearing gradually goes. There are people that probably would think that Jan and I are on the verge of divorce. We might just be asking the person to get us a glass of water while they're out in the kitchen. We have to yell at home because neither one of us can hear. We just got to grow into that, I guess. This guy said, I didn't realize how bad my hearing was really getting until I got a cochlear implant. He said, I had hearing aids, and his one ear was so bad hearing aid didn't help. The other one really helped a lot. He thought he was doing pretty well. He says, I got a cochlear implant. And he made this statement. He said, it is wonderful to wake up in the morning and hear the birds sing again. I haven't heard that for years. AI really has some great uses. There are some dangers of AI, and these are some things that people are afraid of. Job losses. This goes back, and I did some research, or tried to, on cars and building cars. And when did this start? Well, one said it started back in 1913 when Henry Ford made the first assembly line, because there were machines there that did the work that people did before. Now, they weren't really what we would call AI and thinking about what to do next. And then in 46, they came up with a few more things. In 1962 was the first machine that we would look at and say was a robot. It's pretty big and it does all kinds of things on a car, puts parts in place and does welding and does painting, and they really came into their own through the 70s. And of course, people all along the way tried to stop that. We're going to lose jobs. We're just not going to have any jobs. And I got some family members now that won't use the self-checkout at the store. But you notice they have more of those all the time. Started at Walmart, and then the grocery store has some self-checkouts, and now Sheetz has them. Last month, I went to Walmart 3 times, and I used the self-checkout. They gave me Employee of the Month. People are scared of losing jobs. Have you ever heard of the Luddites? The Luddites, that's kind of an interesting thing to look at too. They were in Great Britain, and they were a group of people who they broke into factories. The factories back then were just starting to get looms and weaving machines, and the people that were in that field and made their money in that thought, we won't have any place to work. We won't have anything to do. We can't make money. And so they would break into factories and break up all the equipment so they could have jobs. Luddites. If anyone calls you a Luddite today, what they're saying is you're afraid of technology. And there are some that are. There's some people that will not use a cell phone because you'll get brain cancer or any number of reasons. There's some people that just don't trust new technology. I read an article here a while back about a ship that was bringing cars over from Europe, I think from Denmark, and they had like 3,600 cars on the ship, and one of the electric cars just broke out into flames, destroyed the whole thing, the ship sank. And so, people read articles like that. I can't trust them. I would never have an electric. There are probably people here. I would never have an electric car. Well, I don't think I ever will, but I don't know that I'm afraid of the technology. I just don't think it's quite developed enough yet. Surveillance. A lot of people don't like that. There are cameras everywhere. Mike, did we get cameras in the church yet? Just that one back there? And some people just don't like that. Even if they're not trying to commit some kind of a crime or something, I just don't want to be watched all the time. This picture of Captain Kirk down here in the corner at probe that he's talking to is Nomad. I think that was in season 2, episode 3. Not that I've ever watched Star Trek. And Nomad was created by a scientist by the name of Roy Kirk. And so it gets a little confused. It's been damaged a little bit, and it thinks that at first that Captain Kirk is its creator. And so he's the only one that can control it. And it has incredible powers for destruction. What it was created for was to eliminate any biological imperfection, also known as people, because we all got them. And so it would determine if there's an imperfection, that would correct that imperfection. Ended up destroying the whole planet of people. and then they ended up with it on the Enterprise. You'll have to watch it to see how it ends. A lot of people are really afraid of this very thing. And I'm sure there are people here that might have good reason to. If machines get to the point where they can think and realize that we have more power than people, and people are just in the way, and they are imperfect, we're going to destroy them. Who knows? Self-driving cars use artificial intelligence. AI, my car has AI, always imperfect. But Jan's car has AI. Hers, if you get over too close to the white line, beep, 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 beep. And get over too close to the center line, beep, 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 beep. And there's a voice that comes on too. Are you falling asleep? Asked my wife. That's real intelligence, not artificial. Wayne has that in his car. We were driving one day and at a stoplight, and Wayne or I, neither one of us ever talk much. So Wayne's talking, and the car in front of us leaves, the light turns green, and the car leaves. And his car says, "The vehicle ahead of you has moved." Leave me alone. We're kind of skeptical about things like that. Have you ever seen a self-driving vehicle? I saw one day. I was driving down to Pittsburgh on 28. It had big signs all over it that it was a self-driving vehicle. And we're moving that direction. It probably will be perfected enough to happen, but not in my lifetime. Just to give you an idea of how people think about artificial intelligence and technology and things moving on, I want to read this article, or part of this article, that a skeptic of the horseless carriage wrote. And this was back, Mr. Winton, not Winston, but Winton, really was the first car manufacturer in the United States. And they made a lot of them. They manufactured 4 a year. This is back in its infancy. They sold for $1,000 a piece, and this E.P. Ingersoll wrote an article about it and just how ridiculous it was. He said the notion that electric vehicles, and they had some that were electric and some that were gas. This is really back in the beginning. Or vehicles of any other kind will be able to compete with the railroad trains for long-distance traffic is visionary to the point of lunacy. The fool who hatched out this latest motor canard was conscience-stricken enough to add that the whole matter was still in an exceedingly hazy state. But if it ever emerges from the nebulous state, it will be in a world where natural laws are all turned topsy-turvy and time and space are no more. If we have cars, it's going to be the end of the world. That's what this guy writes that evidently, supposedly knew what he was talking about. Technology. You can choose not to use it, but you can't stop it. The Phoebus cartel. They controlled the manufacture. The Phoebus cartel was made up of some of the CEOs and owners of companies that made light bulbs. They controlled the manufacture and sale of incandescent light bulbs between 1925 and 1939. The cartel took over market territories and lowered the useful life of light bulbs. It was commonly cited as an example of planned obsolescence. If we make light bulbs that last forever, we're out of business. And so they made inferior light bulbs so they could sell more of them. Technology took over. Now we use LEDs. They're brighter, take less energy, last longer. You can choose not to use it, but you can't stop it. What about AC? Artificial Christianity. Technology is the application of scientific knowledge for practical purposes or applications. Here's a quote from a preacher that passed away years ago. I had the greatest respect for this guy. And we were just starting to use computers. Oh, preachers shouldn't use computers. I said, well, why not? I was using one. I said, why not? And of course, the one I was using then, if you know anything about computers, it was an 8088. Just starting with them. And I said, why shouldn't they? It's going to make them lazy. Computers are going to make preachers lazy. I said, I see what you're saying now. No preacher that uses a pen and a paper is going to get lazy. Well, you know what I mean. I said, not really. I said, it will enable you to do more in less time. That's what technology does. And of course, some people, there's probably some sitting right here that, I get this and I read Bible texts on it. That's a phone, that's not a Bible. You're confused. This is a Bible that allows you to make phone calls. That's what that is. I use it because I've always got it. Because on this, with our technology, I've got 4 translations of the Bible, and it takes up almost no room. I could put 4 more on. You can choose not to use it, but you can't stop it. Online church. Turn the camera off for a couple of minutes here. No, I'm just joking. What about online church? Well, online church isn't church. I'm glad everybody that's here is here. Some people can't be, and it sure is nice. There have been several times when I couldn't attend here. It's nice to have this online and be as much a part of it as we can. It kind of leads into what I want to really look at, the idea of artificial Christianity. It doesn't really have anything to do with technology. To put things in perspective, Jeremiah prophesies this in Jeremiah 31. Jeremiah 31:31, easy way to remember it. The time is coming, declares the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. It will not be like the covenant I made with their forefathers when I took them by the hand to lead them out of Egypt, because they broke my covenant, though I was a husband to them, declares the Lord. The old covenant was broken. Things break. And it wasn't the old covenant's fault. The Apostle Paul, when he writes about it, he even says, the law is good. It's the people that didn't keep it. This is the covenant I will make with the house of Israel after that time, declares the Lord. I will put my law in their minds and write it in their hearts. I will be their God, and they will be my people. And that time that he talks about is the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. A new covenant. And this covenant's different. This isn't artificial Christianity. It can't be artificial Christianity because it's inside of us. No longer will a man teach his neighbor or a man his brother, saying, know the Lord, because they will all know me, from the least of them to the greatest, declares the Lord. For I will forgive their wickedness and will remember their sins no more. Now, the reason a man's not going to teach his neighbor or his brother anymore saying you need to know the Lord is because if you're the neighbor and brother, you'll know the Lord. The only way you can be part of this covenant is to know the Lord. You ever have a teacher tell you anything like this? I remember hearing it in school. I can't open up your head and pour this arithmetic into it. And I remember thinking, well, lady, I wish I could, even more than you wish I could. You got to study. You got to learn this. God's not going to just automatically change everybody. And nobody else can do this for you. And you can't find technology. I mean, we can use phones for Bibles and computers for looking up things and typing up things and making up slideshows. But you can't use any technology to serve God, to give your heart to God, where you need to serve. John 17, Jesus prays the longest recorded prayer that we have of his in Scripture. And there's a little song that I learned one time. The words are a little different. I think it was from the King James maybe, but it goes something like, "This is the life eternal, that they might know you, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom you have sent." It's a simple little song, and it's so nice to learn those, and every once in a while, that's one of them that just comes out of me. What a great song. This is eternal life. This isn't some side thing or some not important thing. Eternal life is to know you, God. It's not to know how to operate machinery or to use technology. It is to know God intimately. We read this in our Bible class this morning. The Apostle Paul's on Areopagus and the council and at their meeting place, and he sees this little statue that has to an unknown God on it. And he says, I'm going to tell you about what you don't know. You don't know God? Here's who he is. The God who made the world and everything in it is Lord of heaven and earth and does not live in temples built by hands. There's not one thing that was created that wasn't created apart from God. I was thinking about what picture to put up here. I thought, the universe? Pictures of that aren't too impressive because it's too much to put on one picture. How about our solar system? How about the Milky Way? I thought, well, the planet Earth will do pretty well. Think about the vastness. God created that. And then there are people that think he lives inside of buildings. I remember having a couple come in one time, and he had some pretty colorful language. They got up on the porch, and we're going into the church building. And his wife says, now you stop talking like that. We're entering God's house. And I didn't say much. I didn't want to say, oh, he can curse and swear all he wants. God doesn't live here. I thought that's probably better off not saying that. But he doesn't live there, does he? He's not served by human hands as if he needed anything, because he himself gives all men life and breath and everything else And the people that, the wise men that Paul was talking to at the time, made little statues, wood, stone, gold. That was their gods. From one man, he made every nation of men that they should inhabit the whole earth. And he determined the times set for them and the exact places where they should live. And people think, well, I'll kind of spit and stammer around a little bit. Well, I don't think God actually does that. Well, Paul thought he did. I think he did. I think he does. And here's the reason. God did this so that men would seek him and perhaps reach out for him and find him, though he is not far from each one of us. Artificial Christianity doesn't work. Don't you know that you yourselves are God's temple and that God's Spirit lives in you? If anyone destroys God's temple, God will destroy him, for God's temple is sacred. And you are that temple. And we need to preserve each other and encourage each other and build each other, because that's where God lives. There's nothing artificial about it. This is the new covenant that Jeremiah prophesies. Two passages in Hebrews. Hebrews chapter 8 and Hebrews chapter 10 both tell us what the time was. The time when the new covenant came into being was the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus. There are people that are concerned about, somebody putting implants of some sort in your brain, and I guess they've done that already. There'll never be a slot in your head so you can put a salvation chip in your brain. Artificial intelligence, it's going to happen. Whether we like it or not, whether we choose to participate or not, it's going to happen. Artificial Christianity is an impossibility because it's God in our lives. Therefore, I urge you, brothers, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. This is your spiritual act of worship. We never can prove the delights of his love until all on the altar we lay. For the favor he shows, for the joy he bestows, are for them who will trust and obey. Is your all on the altar? Everything that you are and have is God's. You freely, willingly, through your desire, give it to him. Nothing artificial. This morning, perhaps you've never given your life over to God. We do that when we die to self, we're buried with him in baptism and raised to walk in a new life. And at that time, he gives us his Spirit to live in us. If you've never done that, and maybe you've been motivated to this morning, we invite you to come and let us know that, or perhaps you just drifted away. We all have a tendency to do that. And you just want to ask the church to support you more, to pray for you. Would you come forward now and make your wishes known as we stand and sing?